work is returning in a big way, especially here in Dallas. That's just one of the stories that Jane and Jose are working on for you coming up next. And then, of course, as we always do, we'll have more local news, weather, and traffic for you this morning at 8:25. So please stay with us.
Down in New Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona, don't forget Winona, Kingman, Boston, San Bernardino, get it, baby, to my time to tip. When you make that California trip, get your kicks on Route 66. Sam Swing on the guitar.
Been hearing that, I'll tell you that. But if that's not your cup of tea, check out the comeback of the lounge sound.
Long ago, I wandered down into old Mexico. There at a
We've got both and some dancing coming up this morning.
It's a Friday.
It's a Friday.
First, though, let's get caught. Parents, even our grandparents, dance to the sound of lounge music. Now it's back, big time, in this morning's window on America. Burmese python around his neck deserves a little salute.
Absolutely, and all our respect.
Welcome back to This Morning, everybody. I'm Jane Robles.
And I'm Jose Diaz-Balart, in for Mark McEwen this morning. Air Force One finds Harrison Ford defending himself and his country. Now see if Gene Siskel thinks the movie is worth defending.
And if you're young or just young at heart, three young men called Hanson seem to have everybody humming and bopping. We're going to bop along in just a few more minutes.
Also, if bopping is not your style, how about some lounging? We've got something for everyone's musical taste coming up this morning.
Like that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
First, though, let's get caught up on the latest news.
Our window on America opens on the finger-popping sounds that America sang, hummed, and whistled from the 1940s through the early 1960s. Now those sounds have a 90s flair, and our Hattie Kaufman is here with That Story. Good morning, Hattie.
Good morning. Well, let's make one thing perfectly clear. This
Yes.
is not elevator music.
Okay.
These days, the sounds you might have thought as canned music are pulsating from clubs from the Pacific Northwest all the way to Texas. It's all reminiscent of the cabaret, the big band sound that once defined the New York Supper Club.
Wanna know, Mr. Wingtip shoes? Hey, Mr. Always on the go. Well, I know you got the answers. We all wanna know, yeah.
Always the Red Jacket's the place to be on Thursday nights. It's become the thing in the last year here in Dallas.
Everybody's swinging.
Lounge music is a mix of styles. It's pretty jazzy.
We're trying to bring back great music and great live performances.
First of all, lounge, I think, as a term, is about the scene. And it's a lifestyle. It's about the club scene and going out to the cocktail lounges and all that.
And it's about the beat. Say thanks to the grunge crowd for growing weary of rock. What's hot now is cool music from the so-called Bachelor Renaissance. You know, those quirky, cagey cadences affectionately known as lounge music. And it's back with a vengeance. Today's lounge bands are packing them in, from San Francisco to LA to the Lone Star State. Groups like Texas-based Johnny Reno and the Lounge Kings are playing to crowds whose parents were barely out of diapers when the very first lounge recordings were released.
The under 30 crowd, who doesn't have any kind of really historical point of view or reference, they're discovering saxophones and trumpets and upright basses and the sound of those instruments and, you know, the Hammond B3 organ.
The kind of music they're playing in the lounges, which is everything from swing to exotica to finger snapping vocals, and it's pretty much connected with the whole 10-year period between 55 and 65. They're looking back to a time that's kind of more positive, time when people went out and had fun, dressed to the nines, drank martinis.
It is the sweet sounds of Sinatra, Nancy Wilson, Dina Nat, Louis Prima that performers are paying homage to. The belly of Capitol Records in L.A., right in Studio B, is where much of the legendary sound of lounge was born. Contemporary lounge bands like Big Bad Voodoo Daddy are also now recording within these walls just to catch a bit of the magic.
Hey, Mr. Pinstripe Suit. Hey, Mr.
I mean, the music was made really popular in the 40s. That's where this music came from. But the way we approach it is we approach it now. We admire those times and we admire those players. But we definitely do our thing with 40 swing.
The movie Swingers really thrust Big Bad Voodoo Daddy and the lounge scene into the limelight. So popular is this musical hybrid that Capitol Records won a Grammy this year for its release of Ultra Lounge, a compilation of music recorded over 30 years ago.
Glad to see it come back. It's something I can listen to for a change.
On any Thursday night at the Red Jacket in Dallas, you're likely to see the lines blur between then and now. It's the eclectic mix of melody and style that draws the audience. Lounge is mambo, it's jazz, it's cabaret, it's swing. And if you think new lounge acts like Austin's 8.5 Souvenirs with their flair for French cabaret just perform the music of old-timers, think again. These new groups meld all that was once punk, rock, and grunge into an elegant mix peppered with just the right touch of nostalgia.
It's the maddest kind of love. It's a mad, mad love.
And they do love it. If you're wondering, all the three bands that we kind of profile here either have an album out now or they're coming out, and they are all touring. You see, lounge music never really died. It just took a back seat to those other styles like rock and roll.
Hattie, what is it about this music that is now drawing the younger audience?
Well, in terms of drawing younger musicians, I can tell you it's the complexity of it. You know, rock and roll and punk has generally 2 or 4 chords that are repeated over and over. Well, in these songs, it's not at all the case. They're very complicated, they're unpredictable, and the young musicians and the young audiences are discovering this. And it's funny because they're also discovering Cab Calloway, Frank Sinatra. It's not rediscovering, because for the Generation X, it's discovering.
And Perez Prado and the Mambo as well.
That's right, of course.
Hattie, thanks so much. Well, Jane?
Thanks, Jose. It's 21 minutes before the hour. Before you spend your money, on my microphone. There it is.
Okay, here we go. Couldn't hear you, but you look great, Gene. Coming up, Gene Siskel is standing by in Chicago. Gene, can you hear me?
I certainly can, and let me tell you that in the last year there have been 8 movies involving the